The first three business models you described, what are they making and where's the money in there?
So whether it's journalism online or Circulate or ViewPass, basically what they're doing is saying, we're going to provide you revenue monetizing infrastructure and a suite of services. So that's the play that they're trying to make to content companies, that will provide you with these services. You won't have to think about them, and you'll make money. I mean, it's kind of the underpants owns business model, you know. First, steal underpants. Second, shrug. Third, profits. So it's a little bit of that, and it's obviously because with journalism online, the only thing that strikes me is, like I said, is these kind of content bundles which they're going to resell. I think the big question is whether those content bundles will be distinct enough, whether or not there are already services out there that provide that kind of thing. But it's basically their monetization infrastructure, and the idea is really for journalism online and ViewPass. The idea seems to me is they believe if they can get everybody to put their content behind a paywall, they'll create some type of artificial scarcity that they will suddenly be able to charge for.
Is it almost like an iTunes then? So it's just like literally someone would go in. I'm not quite sure what the transaction is.
It depends on the ViewPass. It's basically just so the infrastructure would be set up so that it's almost like what was that single sign-on that Microsoft has? Passport. That's it. I use it on Expedia and I forget about it. It's kind of like Passport for news. So what they want is kind of a single sign-on ability to charge across several news sites. And so that's the idea. Is if they get enough people, if they get enough sites, then this will be of enough value to the content producers, but also consumers.
One thing I'm kind of interested in, or I've been kind of fascinated by, is that one of the revenue streams that a lot of the internet content seem to have is format shifting. That Apple managed to extract revenue on iTunes because it's tied to the iPod, and that Amazon are trying to extract money on people who use particularly Kindle and kind of e-readers and so forth. I think there's something like that, or is it just always going to be too niche?
Well, there is something in that, and this may not be what you're alluding to, but the New York Times does have a project coming out of their R&D labs. It's a very intriguing on-demand product. Nick Bilton has showed it off to a number of people, and he showed it off to us in a very early form, us being me and my wife. And basically, at that time, it was a blue New York Times newspaper box with a HP printer stuck in it. But the idea is you would have kind of like an Oyster card, an RFID card, and you go up to this box and you pass it over, and it goes, "Hello, Kevin. We know that you read technology, U.S. politics, and national news. Would you like the top 3 stories in those sections, or would you like a summarized view of all of those sections with a QR code that will automatically link your mobile phone to the mobile web?" And Nick has said on Neiman Lab's blog that they're going to launch this product quite soon. So now that's kind of an interesting value-added proposition, where, I mean, for me, one of the problems with these monetizations is it's all focused on the needs and desires of publishers to make money. It's not necessarily focused on any user need at all. And so, I mean, yeah. Sorry, it was the elephant in the long wall. But that's what that's what journalism online strikes me as. It's just New York cronies kind of saying, "We're here to save your butts and hand us over lots of money." I'm going to get quoted on that. That's how.
I can vaguely imagine paying for a service where a customized New York Times or the standard New York Times or whatever appears magically every morning on the thing I'm going to read on YouTube, and it's there, and you can read it when you're at network coverage and so forth. You can see some value in that.
Well, so again, another really interesting idea that the New York Times R&D department has is something called Shift, which they actually prototyped and built in Factory a couple of years ago. And this is the idea that it will allow New York Times content to follow you through the day. Now, it's a bit sort of single source focused, which is the sort of 1950s dream of every newspaper these days, that you only read their newspaper and all of the content is you know, an anathema to you. But their idea was, again, and I don't know what Nick built in it, he loves RFID chips. So the idea is, you know, you're sitting at your laptop and you're reading the news or your desktop, and your phone sits on this little RFID dock, and then you pick up the phone, and the story from the New York Times, your phone knows what that story is, takes it with you, and you just carry on reading. And then you park it and you get to work, and it carries on. And the other thing is that if there was any multimedia content, any video content, you probably don't want to see it on a small screen or hand over your firstborn to your network carrier. So you save that and then take it home, and then they've got this great setup where, again, you park your phone and suddenly all of your bookmarked videos kind of cover flow onto this 52-inch screen, and it's just glorious. So I think that that's another thing where you can see that that's a technology and content play that is, again, it's focused on the user, it's focused on delivering relevant content on any platform, and content follows you throughout the day. I mean, that's some really interesting stuff, and it's not kind of super futuristic. It's around the corner.
But why not just the Kindle? I mean, you know, I mean, in a sense, you're
the
kind
Kindle,
of avoiding the question about just, you know, why not just the device that's got your books on it, that got the screen?
Because the terms for publishers are owners. I mean, it's a 50-50 rev split, and publishers think our content is
70-30.
70-30, excuse me, it's even.
Oh, okay, but technologically, does it work? I mean, does it work as a technological play? Is it just a business problem with Amazon?
It's a business problem with Amazon, but you're not going to get past that. I mean, look, for newspapers right now that are seeing their revenues go dropping like a rock.
That's the problem.
They're not going to walk into they're not going to hand over a third party 70% of their revenue. It's just not going to happen.
Because you've got some lovely ideas which you described, but right now people need stuff.
There are a lot of publications where literally they're trying to see a way through 5 more quarters, and you know, handing over 70% of their content to Amazon is not the way forward with that. And
but that sounds like a simple thing that'll eventually switch, because Amazon also is waiting for content that makes the Kindle absolutely, you know, must-have.
You know,
I mean, that's the quickest, much quicker than solving technology problems is negotiating a split.
Well, it's
how many quick Kindles are going to, you know, they're not going to jump on
you know, honestly, the fact that the iPhone, the Neo OS actually allows for charging within applications is probably more interesting than Kindle to me at this moment, and I think it's more of an open platform. I also think that locking it into a single platform or a single provider is always going to be a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, but you were saying, you were talking about focusing on the customer's need and not about doing what the publisher. This is all publisher arguments. This is not reader arguments you're coming up with.
But okay, so let me put my reader hat on. I don't have a Kindle. I mean,
well, the UK doesn't make sense. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So again, you know,
the US one makes sense.
This is at the moment it's still you know, it's still edge behavior, and I just to make the argument that the Kindle is a savior for any e-reader at this point in time is just it doesn't get us through the next 5 quarters or so.